The five-person council of Blue Rock is at a crossroads. The issue at hand is what should be done, if anything, to combat global warming and climate change. The five councilors are split on the issue. Two of the councilors say that global warming exists, has been accelerated by human action, and that preventative measures should be taken by the townspeople. The first of these councilors, Paul Mekadov, is an environmentalist, and the second, Ed McDonald, is a representative from the Environmental Protection Agency. The other two councilors feel that global warming is not induced by humans, but is rather a natural phenomenon and requires no measures to be taken because people are already living paycheck to paycheck. One of these councilors, Travis Speaker, is also the treasurer and the owner of Travis & Sons Agricultural Company. The other, Jessie Gray, is a columnist for the Wall Street Journal. The last of the five councilors, Erich, is undecided on the issue of global warming and is interested in hearing both sides of the argument before coming to a conclusion.
According to the Earth Institute of Columbia University, human activity is straining the planet's resources, threatening the health of our environment and ability to thrive. The heat balance of Earth is affected by emissions of greenhouse gases. Carbon dioxide is the major greenhouse gas that is emitted through the combustion of fossil fuels such as coal, oil, and natural gas.
And author of Population and Development Review, John Bongards, claims that by the end of the 21st century, the total temperature increase attributable to man's actions is estimated to exceed 4 degrees Celsius and could reach as high as 9 degrees. Famed naturalist Henry David Thoreau and botanist Alfred Hosmer's findings were observed by a study of the Ecological Society of America during the period of 1852 to 2006 that Concord, Massachusetts got 2.4 degrees Celsius warmer because of industrialization and urbanization associated with climate change. After an experiment of observing blooming patterns, Abraham Miller Rushing, author of Global Warming and Flowering Times in Thoreau's Concord, A Community Perspective, observed that plants are now flowering, in fact, a whole week earlier on average than they did in Thoreau's times of the mid-1800s.
And now we have my colleague Travis, the town treasurer.
Thank you, Jessie. One cannot openly condemn the greenhouse gas effect as an entirely detrimental process and expect to be taken seriously. We are a town of farmers. If anything, we know plants. We know, of course, that plants need carbon dioxide to function. It is no stretch of the imagination to realize that higher levels of carbon dioxide result in plants functioning better overall. Taking this to an extreme, we can arrive at a satisfying conclusion. Botanist Sylvan Whitwer explains that if the carbon dioxide levels within our atmosphere were doubled, plants would grow faster and bigger, improving branching and seed production. The number and size of fruits would also rise. Now, our food bank has never gone more than a week without a surplus. Do we really want to reverse the process that is currently improving this town's ability to feed itself? Here's Jessie, a Wall Street Journal columnist, with a comment.
I feel sympathetic to the plant communities that are sensitive to climate change. However, I also feel nature takes care of its children, and whatever climate changes we are experiencing are due to nature and are not created by people. By far the largest source of carbon dioxide emissions is the equatorial Pacific Ocean. It produces 72% of Earth's emissions of carbon dioxide. And the rest of the Pacific, the Atlantic, the Indian Ocean also contribute. Combining the factors of water vapor and nature's production of carbon dioxide, we see that 99.8% of any greenhouse effect has nothing to do with carbon dioxide emissions from human activity. While I think it's important to reserve fossil fuels and reduce our minuscule contribution to greenhouse gases, it must be said that climate change happens with or without human beings.
However, greenhouse gases in the Earth's atmosphere are responsible for the greenhouse effect, which results in an increase in the temperature on the Earth's surface due to some thermal radiation being absorbed by the layer of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere and scattered back towards the Earth's surface. The change in the heat balance affects weather patterns, temperature extremes, and the rise of sea levels on Earth. All of these environmental factors have a huge effect on human society. A warmer overall temperature can prove disastrous to many species of organisms and their environments. The strength and frequency of tropical storms may increase, causing more devastation to the human population. The rise of sea levels can result in more frequent floods that may force entire populations of humans to migrate to higher ground. The representative from the EPA, Ed McDonald, has something to add to that.
Thank you, Paul. Differences in flowering responses to warming could affect relationships in plant communities as warming continues. Plants such as St. John's wort and high bush blueberry, which are common in the United States, are extremely sensitive to climate changes and could serve as natural responses to global warming. In fact, 16% of species flowered significantly earlier in the 1990s than in previous decades. Plus, rare or endangered species that do not react to these changes could face extinction.
And now we have Travis, the founder of Travis & Sons Agricultural Company.
Thank you, Jessie. From what I hear, it seems like your advocacy for a carbon offsetting program is based on some feeling of culpability for global warming. Let's assume for a moment that you're correct, that humans have had a tangible impact on the Earth's atmospheric carbon dioxide levels. Does this mean that humans have played a direct role in global warming? Not necessarily. As Jane Shaw, the senior associate of the Center for Free Market Environmentalism describes, scientists from the Scripps Institution of Oceanography studied the ice cores in Antarctica. They found that over thousands of years, temperatures sometimes change first before the amount of carbon dioxide in the air changed. Thus, supposed human contributions to carbon dioxide levels might have been preceded by or occurred simultaneously to natural temperature changes. Are you so misguided as to suggest that the townspeople earmark their tax dollars to combat natural temperature changes?
On another note, let us question for a moment who funds the research done in favor of global warming? The government. And what is their motive behind enforcing a global carbon tax? The first global tax. Frederick Moore, a co-founder and director of Greenpeace, resigned because of its trend towards abandoning scientific objectivity in favor of political agendas. It is possible that some environmental organizations are going along with the idea of human-induced global warming, primarily to keep government funds.
However, let's hear Ed out. He has a good point.
It is small towns like ours that are able to set the gears in motion by sacrificing a little to ultimately make a larger impact. Our town should act as a role model to the surrounding towns. If we can agree to even make the slightest changes, from whether it's on us, the citizens, or on the business side, with anything from planting trees to offset carbon emissions, to one of the more extremes, like setting regulations that offer incentives or subsidies for businesses to be more eco-friendly. Big cities are too cemented in their ways for an immediate plan of action, and with any luck, our town can set a trend or a chain reaction that could spread from us to the county, possibly the state, and from there, who knows?
Human interaction with the climate is well documented. However, in the last century, it has drastically increased. Since the Industrial Revolution, the amount of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere has increased by over 40%. Yet countries like China and India seem to only be entering their own industrial revolutions. We seem to be worried about factors like the economy more than the environment. And that mindset needs to change. For how much longer can the Earth sustain us if our population keeps growing and expanding while the environment suffers from these human-induced climate changes? We must take action now if we are to leave a world full of prosperity for future generations.
And now we have Travis, the founder of Travis & Sons Agricultural Company.
Thank you, Jessie. If you really want to take action against global warming, you should really be aware of the implications. You might, for example, suggest the purchase of carbon offset credits intended to pay for a project aiming to reduce planetary carbon dioxide levels. You should know that according to an employee of the Stockholm Environment Institute USA, some critics liken this to buying pardons from the Catholic Church in the 16th century Europe. What these individuals mean to say is that the damage has been done, and purchasing carbon credits is an extremely hopeful but backwards approach. You want to fund a tree planting effort instead? You better be careful where your money goes. After all, trees planted in a high latitude land may replace ice cover and reduce the reflectivity of the Earth's surface, thus increasing global warming. If you ask me, the whole thing is just more trouble than it's worth.
To address the point made earlier in relation to the Industrial Revolution, Over 80% of the 20th century's carbon dioxide increase occurred after 1940, but most of the century's temperature increase occurred before 1940. From 1940 until the mid-70s, the climate also failed to behave according to the greenhouse hypothesis, as carbon dioxide was strongly increasing while global temperatures cooled. And in the last 1.6 million years, there have been 63 alternations between warm and cold climates, and no indication that any of them were caused by changes in carbon dioxide levels. A recent study of a much longer period, 6 million years, shows without exception that temperature changes precede changes in carbon dioxide levels, not the other way around. As the Earth warms, the oceans yield more carbon dioxide to the atmosphere because warmer water cannot hold as much carbon dioxide as colder water. This is a natural cycle.
After hearing both sides of the issue, I have reached a decision. Both sides have presented compelling evidence. Although it is not conclusive that humans have tangibly affected the rate of global warming, I invoke the precautionary principle and assert that we should take specific proactive action.
Our town is simply not in the financial situation to purchase carbon offset credits. If we are convinced that we must take action, then I suggest a grassroots movement. This would allow citizens to make some meaningful contribution without earmarking their tax dollars for projects that will probably never see the light of day.
More specifically, I suggest that a small volunteer committee be formed to engage in a number of community-based environmental projects. For its first task, let's have the committee plant trees along the perimeters of all the town's farms. The trees will not only reduce local carbon dioxide levels, but will also reduce the effects of wind and water erosion on the fertile farm soil. All in favor?
Aye.
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 What is your opinion on global warming?
My opinion on global warming is it's happening.
I think it's a problem, but I don't think it's going to impact our generation as much as future generations. Polar ice caps are slowly melting. It's definitely happening. I do believe global warming is real, but I don't think it's going to impact us so much as our grandchildren.
I don't think global warming exists, actually. In the 70s, we were worried about global cooling. And over time, like, people just change their opinions to, like, you know, fit with the times. And I honestly don't believe it's happening.
All right, well, so there's no debate as to whether or not the planet's getting hotter, right? The sun's burning in one of its most brightest cycles, so, you know, the ice caps on our planet aren't just melting, they're also melting elsewhere out there in outer space. The question is, can we trace this heating activity or some of it back to human behavior? Do we have a footprint in it? And, you know, the thing is, that's something I think we all like to tackle intuitively. And, you know, I'm not a meteorologist, and I think a lot of people, some of them with the loudest opinion, also don't know anything about climate science. So, you know, what can we do? If you look throughout history, when the dinosaurs existed and before in the Precambrian period, so, you know, all in all, I don't think we have enough information to decide what the best course of action is, or you know, the science. As I said, there's no debate as to whether or not the planet's getting hotter. It is, but is this just what the planet does, or you know, are we more of a contributing factor in it getting hotter? And is there some measurable difference that we can make by altering the course of our behavior today and in our future behavior? Or how long would it take? Would it take 10 years to make a measurable difference, or would it take 50 or 100 years to reduce, you know, the temperature by a fraction of a degree? I don't know, but thanks for the interview, but I don't know.
I think global warming is a reality, and judged by the recent Hurricane Sandy, The polar ice caps are melting, the extreme weather events in the Midwest. It's undeniable. There's something going on, and I believe it can be linked to global warming.
I think that as a whole we're kind of destroying the world that we live in, and I do believe that the environment has been changing over the years, and I think we need to do something about it. But I'm going to put a little twist on this. I think that we spend so much time, I mean, yes, the world's important to save and to like improve, but I think that more importantly, maybe we should start treating each other with respect and understanding and caring, and then maybe we care more about saving the world that we're losing.
According to the Earth Institute of Columbia, human activity is straining the planet's resources, threatening the health. Hold on. Water bottle is derailing me.
And we just so happen to be graced by an environmentalist in the council.
Really? Graced by?
And we have my colleague here, Travis from Travis and Sons.
See?
And now we have my colleague Travis of Travis and Sons Agriculture. And now we have my colleague and the town treasurer, Travis, the owner of the Travis and Sons.
If you want to take action against global warming, you should really be aware of the implications. You might, for example, Jesus,
A cat with the legs.